Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Every share, subscriber, review, and comment helps me to share these guests' wonderful work to more people. Thank you for your help in this. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. After 2 years of this wonderful labor of love, I will need to add in some sponsors to help the show grow and help these guests' incredible stories get out there to inspire more people. So I want to give you the heads up, and if you know a business of any size who would be interested in collaborating and aligns with our mission here, feel free to send them my way. Many thanks. In taking classes over the years or observing workout videos, one major piece that is often missing: stressing safety and form. Additionally, group fitness classes are often marketed as being open to all levels, yet how often do instructors not give modifications nor progressions so that each participant truly can get what he or she needs out of the class? So that's why I created the 101 series, which take things back to basics with 3 separate courses: Bar 101, Pilates 101, and HIIT 101, focusing on safety and efficiency so you can maximize your workouts. Be confident when you step into a group fitness class or workout on your own. Be strong in your execution of the most common exercises, and be proud of yourself for taking these huge steps forward on your health journey. Check it out at bebykate.com. The link is in the show notes. Now on to the episode. Today on Be the Good with Kate, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Laurie Palau. Laurie is the author of the book Hot Mess, A Practical Guide to Getting Organized, host of the popular weekly podcast, This Organized Life, and founder of Simply Be Organized, which is a lifestyle company helping people live simply and work smarter. Topics include clutter, parenting, and entrepreneurship, and her advice has been featured in national publications, including Real Simple and the New York Times. Laurie, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. I always and I do it too on the other side. Like, I read the live intro, but I always, when you're hearing about yourself, you're always like, oh gosh.
You know what, though? Let's just be proud of the accomplishments you've done.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You bet. And the other thing I just need to point out, you don't just have a weekly podcast. You have a weekly podcast that's on episode 300 and what?
Oh my God. I think it's like 323. I don't know what we just recorded today. Which one just dropped today. It's like crazy town to think about it.
Wonderful.
I don't even know. It's
wonderful. Most podcasts don't make it out of, what's the statistic, like the first 4 episodes or something like that?
Yeah, I hear that. I don't know. I feel like I feel like that's urban legend, but it is
Okay.
Still a lot. I feel like once people 50's a lot, right? Like, how much are you on? You're on like 80?
When this will be right about 80. Yeah.
Right. Which is a lot. Because if you're doing a weekly episode, if you're doing a weekly show, you figure you're doing 52 episodes a year. It's a lot, and coming up with new content. It's crazy. So,
well, I don't know a single person who doesn't want to know more about how they can have a more organized life. So please tell us more about who you are and what you do in your own words. Fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I run a company called Simply Be Organized. And I originally started the company back, seems like 100 years ago, but it was probably like 2008, 2009, as a way to go into people's homes as a professional organizer and just help them find simple strategies to like maximize their space and have a little bit more time. And in that season of my life, I was a mom with 2 little kids. And I just knew that I had systems and strategies to make my life a little bit more streamlined, less chaotic. And I just saw a lot of my friends struggling. And I said, if this is something that I can help you with, I would love to. And wasn't anywhere as mainstream as it is today. And I just kind of said, let's just try it. And it really took off from there. And so then it evolved into kind of speaking and writing. And then I love just talking about ways people can like do spend time doing the things that really matter. And most people do not get excited about organizing. Um, and so I say, let's just try to dumb down this topic that is such a source of stress for people. And again, that's really kind of just the forefront is how can we do this simply? How can we simplify everything? And that's what the book's about. That's what the podcast is about is simple, practical things. And not only the tactical, like how to kind of stuff, although we like that as well, but really the why. Like, why are we even doing this? Like, what's the purpose, because organizing shouldn't be the end goal. It should be the process so that we can spend more time, save more money, whatever it is, travel more, whatever we want to do. The organization is the conduit to get us to where we want to be. It shouldn't just be the destination.
I love this. And I'm hearing such parallels. The other kind of like half of my life is I'm a fitness instructor and personal trainer.
Oh,
And it's completely parallel, right? It's not about, oh my gosh, how many minutes was I in the gym? It's about making our whole selves healthier and happier each day so we can live long, full lives, right? And I'm hearing this in the organizational aspect because it's all a part of whole health, right? It's mental, it's physical, it's emotional, all of it.
absolutely. And it's so true because you're playing a long game, right? And our goals change as we go through different seasons of our lives. Like we were talking before we hit record, I'm now older. I've got older kids. A lot of your listeners are probably just starting their journey into like the craziness of stuff and travel sports and activities and all of that stuff. And I'm sort of on the back nine of that. But like our lives take on, things take on different priorities depending on the season that we're in. And sometimes you might be working out more and sometimes you may have to take the gas pedal off and modify that. But hopefully the goal is you're not just going to come to a complete halt, right? You might just say, listen, I can't get to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, but I can go for walks. I can do this. I can do push-ups and sit-ups at home, whatever it is. So as long as you're doing something, whether it's working out or organizing, it's again, it's incorporated into your life.
Absolutely. My favorite hashtag is every bit counts. I'm constantly saying that.
Yes,
and
100%.
Now, Laurie, when you were noticing, that, okay, all these people need help organizing, kind of what was your path to realize that this could be your whole job now, like that it could become more of I'm going to help out my friends to everything it is now?
It was a little bit of just kind of like dumb cockiness. I think like it was, I could try this. So my past life, I was an executive recruiter and I always tell people I had an entrepreneurial spirit and I was kind of good at sales and marketing because it's what I did. And I really found that when I started doing this for people and it resonated, I was like, if this is something that's of value to people, if I were able to kind of, and I don't mean to make it sound cheap and whatever, but like if I could package this in a way that people found it was digestible and that they could see results and it could be of value to them. And I was able to provide something that came sort of naturally to me and sort of through trial and error in my own life, using my own kids as a guinea pig. That could be a win-win for everybody. And I was fortunate. I tell people all the time, my husband was the primary breadwinner at the time. And so we were able to kind of take that leap of faith and say, okay, let's test the waters and see if this is something that I like really do. Like I like doing for other people and other people want to pay for it. And I will tell you, if you have any people that are out there that are entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs that are listening, in whatever industry, there's always going to be naysayers. I started this business in 2008, 2009. That was the height of the recession. And people said to me, you're crazy. First of all, nobody knew what a professional organizer was. It was not like there was no Home Edit. There's no Marie Kondo. Like, yes, they existed, but they were like, teenagers. So, it wasn't a mainstream business. And people said to me, you're starting this like luxury type business and people are worried about losing their homes. And I said, no, I think people are spending time in their homes and they really need to maximize the stuff and the space that they have. And I think that this is something that people will really find valuable. And if I listened to a lot of the naysayers, I wouldn't have done it. So again, just my word when I talk to people about entrepreneurship, just, if you feel passionate about something and you think you can do it, go for it.
That's what this is all about, right? Finding their passions and helping people along the way, which you absolutely are doing every single day in so many ways now. And tell me more about some of those good news moments, like maybe someone
Sure.
that you've heard from where their life has really been changed for the better with your help.
So I think for me, the biggest transformations are like when I see people that are able to maintain stuff over time and really impart those systems and strategies in other areas of their life. That is huge. I've got a good friend of mine. Her name also happens to be Kate. And I started working with her when I first started my business. We've actually become good friends since then, but she had 3 small kids at the time. Her youngest was 2. They were like 2, 4, and 6. And they're now teenagers. And her youngest daughter, I mean, they were totally disorganized. And we just kind of, and again, it was like most people, they're just busy and they don't have the systems. They don't know either what products, or they don't have a strategy for cycling things in and out. And so it was a matter of kind of teaching some practical tools along with incorporating some strategies. And once we were able to kind of set that framework up and teach her and the kids how to do it, then they're able to maintain that moving forward. And so I love when I see these kids who are now teenagers grow up and they are able to use these life skills throughout other areas and helping them to prioritize things and put emphasis on what is important and differentiate a keepsake from something that served its time and is now we can pay it forward to somebody else. So those are the stories that I think are the most powerful for me.
I love that you brought in the kids too, because I hear too many stories about people where it's just not even both parents. It typically, the stereotype of like the mom is trying to do it all or something like that. And it's not going to work, right? If you have a whole household, you need the whole family involved in some way. And the health, again, going back to that whole health, right? It's for the whole family's mental sanity and the calm. I've always said, that you need to have calm around you. I mean, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment in Midtown Manhattan. So the second you get a few too many things in here, it's like, oh boy, it feels stressful. But when it's nice and open and there's a sense of calm, and that to me says home, right, as opposed to that chaotic feeling of clutter everywhere.
Being able to dream about what you want your space to look like. When you have so much stuff in your space, you can't see, you can't think past it. And then you become almost desensitized from the clutter and you're feeling stressed and anxious and all of these emotions. And it's because it's just this subtle, like throbbing that you've learned to live with, but really it doesn't have to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And a side question, something that really drew me to you in listening to your podcast and reading about you was all of the psychology that you bring in. You really talk about that aspect. And do you have, when you, for instance, meet a new client, do you sit down and have an interview first? Do you go into their home first? What's kind of that process? Or maybe it's different for everyone.
Such a great question. And I love that. Yeah. I tell people all the time, first of all, I play a psychologist on TV. I don't have any trained psychology degrees. Okay. There's no like extra letters after my name or anything like that. But I do very early on, I got very, very, very fascinated on the why, the psychology behind it. Because I think when we can identify and start to give some language and context around things, it makes us easier to then process and figure out what to do with it. Because a lot of times we're bottlenecked with these feelings and we don't know how to articulate them. And clutter is overwhelming and it's stressful. And just like people stress eat or they stress don't eat, same thing with clutter. You see people that get stressed out and they buy things. And so then they have all this stuff. Or I'm stressed out, so I'm going to start purging, and they just start throwing stuff away and cleaning up. So it can be a both and how people relate and respond to clutter. Everybody has a relationship with clutter. And whether it's the physical clutter that you have, the emotional clutter that's holding you back, or what I call calendar clutter, which is that time management, always being busy, doing things and not carving out the time to address your needs. So I don't have time to do this. Everyone's got some pitfall that they kind of gravitate to. And so I early on started to develop kind of language and framework so that we could just have a springboard for conversations with people.
Right.
And then people could resonate and go, oh yes, that sounds like me. And that opens the door and kind of releases that like, again, the guilt, the fear, the shame, all of those things that we don't have to have around it, but unfortunately it's there. And so the process really starts with conversations of what are your goals? What are you looking for? And, again, my goal is to give people these long-term strategies and tools so that they can maintain them in other areas of their life. And not that you can't have people to come in and maintain, like I have a lawn person that helps me. Like, I think if you're in a position and you can outsource things to people, that's great. And if you can hire somebody to do something, like that's great, but you should also have some basic foundation on how to do these things on your own. And so, we talked to them a little bit about my process and how we go through the things from the tactical part of things. And then usually if there is the decluttering part of it, that's when the person's really involved, which is the like least fun part. But I don't want to make decisions because it's not about me throwing it away. Just like somebody who's trying to get out of debt, I don't want to just come in and write a check and have your debt go away because we really haven't gotten to the root of it. We want you to learn the behavior change so that you'll think twice about what you decide to bring into your home moving forward, right? Because we want to make it like the worst of it's here. And I'm sure like when you're working out with somebody that might be on a fitness or a weight loss journey, it's like, okay, we're going to start incorporating these baby steps that are going to help us, right? If we move forward and today is day one, like everything from here is going to like, this will be the worst it's ever going to be if you're committed to change.
Yes.
Not that there won't be hard days and hard times and all of that, but if you're committing to a lifestyle change, then there's the light at the end of the tunnel.
And that's what it is, a lifestyle change.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much it. And then we work together. And, I've over the years done so many different iterations of like how the business runs. But, I have set up almost like this, I call it a diagnostic is what I do. I call it organizing diagnostic. So think of it as like a physical. So I go in and I'll look at your space from top to bottom. And again, we're in the suburbs. So you have a lot of extra spaces like garages, attics, basements, guest rooms that are breeding grounds for clutter. And we walk through and assess kind of like what themes do we see? Do we see a lot of drop zones? Do we see this, or is it primarily in one spot or not? And then from there, we develop an action plan. And a lot of times people they just need a roadmap. They just need that guideline. And once they have that with like, here's some action steps that you can take. Here's some products that might help you with this. Here's our strategy of how we go through it. Sometimes people can do that because they think, oh my God, hiring a professional is so expensive. And yeah, it certainly can be if they're doing everything for you the whole time. But if you set somebody up and you say, here you go, start small, and here's your roadmap, then a lot of times that's all the empowerment somebody needs to then say, I'm going to go and do this on my own. And I love that. So it doesn't have to be either you have all of this money or you can't have any help at all.
Right. And that overwhelm, you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, that is so huge with organization. And so I'm obsessed with how you call it the diagnostic and the roadmap, because it's breaking it down into these, like you said, digestible components. And then people can say, right, it's that sigh of relief I bet you get all the time.
Yes, because like I said, I like to pretend like I'm a doctor. So I do all of these like,
love it.
But it's great. But it allows people to feel like they are reclaiming control of their time, of their space, and all of these things, because clutter is just a symptom of something else that's going on.
There you go. That's like quote, hang it up right there.
Yeah.
And speaking of quotes, I've been asking everyone in the recent seasons, are there any sayings or mantras that help you through, in building your business with your family or with clients?
I mean, I'm in this big season personally and professionally about grace. So it's just like grace upon grace upon grace, grace for yourself where you are, grace for other people, especially when it comes to looking at the relational impacts of clutter in a home, where I see a lot of parent child or couple relationships with, you know, lot of resentment for people where one person feels like they're carrying all the weight for somebody else, or people aren't respecting boundaries with their stuff. And I I see the more that I've gotten involved with kind of really digging deeper into psychology, really digging into personality typing and motivation and looking at all of these other ancillary components that help to like make up why we do what we do when it comes to clutter, I think has given me a different perspective of looking at, well, maybe this is why they do it. Not as an excuse, but more as context and another way to embrace that language. So I think anything like, just again, and for myself, like grace for mistakes that I make. And, you know, I'm a work in progress as well. So I think that's kind of like my big mantra these days.
That's a great one. And Laurie, if someone came to you and they wanted to make a difference, whether it's through helping others, you know, through their passions like you found, or just helping themselves with this idea of just that calm and that reset in their own homes, is there any advice you'd give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like we all have room for improvement in parts of our lives. And I think we have to think about why we want to do it. And everything is incremental. And like I said at the top of the episode, we're playing a long game. So starting small, being specific is kind of what it is. And don't be afraid to dream of what, and I'm not like a woo-woo person, right? And that's not to say anything against anybody who is, but I'm not a vision board person. I'm not a manifest. And again, if you are, great, but I just feel like I'm very practical and pragmatic. But I'm like, don't be afraid to say, like, I would like this space to be this. I would love to be able to walk in the door and not feel this or feel this. And I think when we can have that goal, but then say, okay, now that we know that this is what we want to work towards, retrofit it and say, what are the steps that we need to do to get there? Because I think for a lot of people, that organizational piece, and again, you can make that parallel right with fitness, is
Totally.
saying, this is what I want, whether it's I want to lose X amount of weight, or I want to put on this muscle, or I want to run a race. But that's a great, I love goals, but you need the plan and the steps of how you're going to get there. And that's where a lot of times when it comes to organization, people just have this, you know, false narrative that you're just supposed to know how to do things. And like, that's just fake, like that's fake news. So just not being afraid to say, what are some ways to go about doing this? This is what I'm trying to accomplish, and just start the conversation.
Great. I'm loving these recurring themes that have been coming back throughout talking to you, with going back to the why, giving yourself grace, like all of these words that we can really hone in on, which I love. And another one that made me laugh, I love that you chose Hot Mess as your title of your book. So please tell everybody where they can find your book, where they can
Thank
follow
you.
you online. And
Yeah.
I know your website is filled with resources too.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. So, yeah, when I wrote the book, I said, you know, there's a lot, like, organization can be intimidating for a lot of people. And I wanted it to be a very relatable, down to earth, practical resource guide for people book. And I wanted to kind of take some of the, like, I wanted to add some like levity to the situation that really is a huge pain point for a lot of people. And again, I think it's just a saying where we all feel like a little bit of a hot mess sometimes. And so it was just something that was kind of a little bit of an extension of myself, I would say. And so I think that definitely is something that people walk away with, I think, feeling like, yeah, I can tackle this. This isn't something that's so unattainable for me. But you could get the book wherever books are sold. I'm all about supporting independent booksellers, but of course you can get it on Amazon or barnesandnobles.com, wherever. And to find me, I'm everywhere. So when I started my podcast, I didn't realize. So from a branding perspective, I didn't realize that people would actually listen to it. So I called it This Organized Life because I thought that was fun. But then I have a business called Simply Be Organized. So my website's simply the letter B, like boyorganized.com, but we're all over socials at This Organized Life podcast because that's where people come and find us. But you could just Google my name and all of our stuff comes up. So wherever you want to go, you can find us.
Excellent. Well, definitely check out her social media and website because it's filled with resources and content, and it's over 300 episodes of your podcast that goes into every aspect of organizing. It's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. We've got tons of like free downloads, all different types of like checklists. If you're interested in like spring checklists, entertain checklists, like all these, you name it, we've got it. There's a clutter quiz on there, a free quiz that talks about like what's your dominant type of clutter, physical, emotional calendar. So all kinds of stuff there. And of course, then links to our YouTube channel and the podcast and all that. So,
yeah. And of course, contact information for Laurie is on there as well. Laurie, thank you so much for being here today, and just for also all this inspiration. I feel like I'm like, what can I clean out right now?
I'm like looking and there's like nothing around you. You're like you're the quintessential minimalist right there in a box right now.
It's good when you can only see part of your place. So I am one of those people that enjoys organization, but still, when you're in 600 square feet, I open the pantry and I'm like, wow, this needs to be cleaned out ASAP. So, it's like you said, there's also times of your life where you're doing more, you're doing less, you're doing more, you're doing less. And it's those systems in place. So overall, we're good with those systems, but definitely always room for improvement. So
this week's Good Deeds Doer shout out. Esther Lamm, nominated by Ashley Penn. Esther's goal since she's been a teenager is to open people's hearts, minds, and senses to experience the transformative impact of listening to music in a way that high-quality audio is capable of offering. She's always believed that, for music to be enjoyed to the fullest, one must be enveloped by the sound. So she is opening a unique experiential showroom in Miami, Florida this spring to expose as many people as possible to this. She has a commitment to experiencing sound and not just hearing it, that she feels is critical for building bridges and cultivating a happy, healthy, self-actualized lifestyle. Thanks for what you do, Esther Lamm. Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.